Hi guys, so welcome to EOP again. So today we're going to talk about a bit in in this chapter particularly, the topic of pointers and arrays, right? So let's look into what pointers are and how pointers are being used in arrays, right? So let's look into the concept of pointers first, right? So in pointers, right? Uh, so let's look at this analogy where we consider that uh, anything has a particular address that we are trying to access, right? So if we want to ship something, we would basically put the address, right? So here we have my parents' address, my friend's address, and my own address, right? So in each of these example here, in each of these address, we have the uh, the particular person, right, and the particular address itself of that person, right? So pointers are like that, right? So pointers are where the address of a particular variable is, right? So let's look deeper into this, right? So there are three major items of a variable, right? There's a value that's being stored, the number of bytes reserved for it, and where in memory these bytes are located, right? So these are the three major items that we're going to talk about, right? In pointers particularly, right? Now, programmers are usually only concerned with a variable value, right? So, as such, uh, as as for now, what you are familiar with is just the particularly the name of the variable and accessing the value inside the variable, right? But does not particularly tell you where the particular value is stored in memory, right? So in C++, there's an address operator ampersand. It's this symbol over here, right? That determines the address of that variable, right? So yeah, so ampersand means particularly address of something, right? When placed in front of a variable, suppose you have a variable num, right, then it is translated as the address of num, right? So when you have an ampersand in front of a variable, you somewhat know that this is the address of num, right? Um, so let's look at the example here, right? Program 8.2, right? So we have a main function, right? Num equals to 22, see out the value, and then see out the address of that value, right? And if you can look at the output here, the address of num is having this hexadecimal number, right? So this can it can get confusing sometimes, right? Using ampersand, right? So we'll we'll point out later why using addresses are more important here. But just let's grab the concept of a pointer first, right? And how it looks like. Right? Okay, so now when we have a particular address, now this address basically states that it is the first byte used by num, right? So so it is basically the location of where the first byte is. Now the content or data might be stored in a bigger size of memory, but in this case it will point to the first byte of that data, right? Okay. Now pointer tells you where value is located, not the value itself, right? So with a variable, you can access a value at a fixed location. With a pointer, the location can vary, right? So the pointer basically change, right? Depending on on where the data is, particularly if you're having to access certain you know, dynamic storage areas, right? Like arrays. Right? Okay. So an address can be stored in suitable declared variables, right? So we can declare a variable, uh, basically a variable that represents an address, right? So when we use the when we so we store them in a particular pointer variables, right? So we would declare the pointers as maybe an integer star num address, right? So it's pointers are mostly integers because the specific uh, specific number in memory, right? So in star num address would store the you know location of uh, address, and we can basically say num address equals to address of num, right? So in this statement, right, it stores an address of num in variable num address, right? The num address itself is what we call a pointer, right? Okay, so 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 the variable name has a pointer of num address, right, to the variable content of the of num, right? Uh, in 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 num address we have the address of num, right, particularly. Okay. Now the star operator, as you've seen here, right, the star operator is an indirect operator, right? The star symbol, when followed by a pointer, means the variable whose address is stored in, right? So if y is a pointer, then star y means the variable whose address, right? The variable whose address is stored in y, right? So this is just get used to the notation for now, right? Commonly we shorten it to the variable pointed to by y, right? The variable pointed to by y. So but know that it means the variable whose address is stored in y, right? So in figure 8.6 here, right, you can see an illustration here. So star y, right, is basically a pointer to variable y, right? Right? Sorry, a pointer variable y. So inside it is the address, right, uh, of the content of some variable, right? Okay. So using a pointer requires a double lookup. First, an address it is retrieved, and address is used to retrieve the actual data, right? Now, so one of the question is, or you might be thinking yourself, why store addresses if data can be retrieved in one step using just variables, right? Uh, Now, the nice thing about using pointers is that pointers makes it possible to create and delete new storage locations dynamically during the program execution. So notice that when you write a program, you have to declare those variables, right? But using pointers, we can create and delete new storages, right, during execution time, right? So not before execution. So usually you would declare it as variables in the beginning of the program, so when you run it, these variables are already defined, right? But pointers allow you to create as you need it in your program, right? That's one thing that's a nice thing about pointers, right? So declaring pointers, right? Pointers must be declared before they can be stored as an address, right? So for example, if an address is a if address in pointer num address is the address of an integer, the declaration is int star num address, right? This basically declares it, right? And later on, you would, the star operator uh, is particularly used, right? Um, and and basically the pointer would somehow point to a byte in memory somewhere, right? So for example here, if the value is equals to 5, right, star pointer equals to ampersand value, then therefore this particular uh, address for val actually contains 5, right? So somehow you can see the value might be stored somewhere around here, right? We'll be pointing one variable will be pointing to the other address, where the address points to the exact value, right, of it, right? Okay, pointers and memories, we'll come back in a bit and take a short break first, and see you again in the next session, right? So catch you a bit later, right, for pointers and memories.